I'm Adam Kingl. I'm the Executive Director of Thought Leadership for Executive Education at London Business School. I talk about paradigms of work and leadership. I talk about authentic leadership, organizational culture, strategic innovation, and management innovation.
Hi, my name is Nick Gold. I'm Managing Director of Speaker's Corner. I'm also a passionate advocate about the speaking industry as a whole, having had senior positions in both with the International Association of Speaker Bureaus and the European Association of Speaker Bureaus. There's such a difference in a speaker who's got their speech and they deliver their speech to a speaker who actually really understands their topic and wants to explore it further and actually just sees the audience as an extension to the ability to kind of expand their minds as much as the audience's minds by the fact you've got a new group of people and you can learn from them as much as they can.
It's a research opportunity.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting. I think with background, if you've got a background in lecturing and education, it's definitely something that you naturally appreciate. Is actually you're constantly learning.
And we talk about this all the time now in education, in higher education, primary education. The idea of the flipped classroom. You know, that the audience is going to come with certain expectations, certain knowledge, certain expertise. And I certainly make no assumptions, and I believe in certain cases there are members of the audience who probably even know more about the topic than I do. But my role is to create dialogue that will help people to ask new questions. And what's really funny is that whether the audience is 30 people or 300 people, neither prevents you from having a dialogue.
A big thing for us at Speakers Corner is obviously the environment everyone's working in order to get the best out of everyone. I suppose you'd call it the modern workplace. I just want to call it a nice environment for everyone. What do you think are the key attributes and maybe the issues of creating this workspace, and how do we go about being better at it?
I think what organizations need to consider is what is their ancien regime. What are the unspoken beliefs and assumptions about what work and work life is? And until they question their beliefs, anything they do at a tactical level is just window painting. It's superficial. There has to be a much more fundamental reconsideration of what it is to be an employer, an employee, and what we do and what we mean when we say, I am going to work. And I think the reason why people sometimes come to me or want to hear from me is what I'm talking about, Generation Y. Now is our opportunity to say, okay, well, what is actually going to be different? And I think Generation Y is certainly to a large extent a generational paradigm, but to at least an equally large extent, it is a cry that we need to finally reconsider these paradigms of work.
And do you think it will only be when the Generation Y are running the workplace that actually impact will happen, or?
Unfortunately, but possibly, right? Sometimes you need the people who require revolution to assume power before anything fundamentally changes.
Do you think there's going to be any balancing of the elder generation workforce and Gen Y, and actually kind of there's some compromise by Gen Y about their beliefs and what they hold dear, because they'll see how the elder population of the workforce actually exists? Or do you think they're strong enough as a collective that they are going to radically shake everything up, and actually it's a question of the baby boomers and Gen X actually fitting around them?
I'm going to give an academic answer to that question because I think it's the most true answer, and that is it depends.
Nice.
There are going to be radical companies that are going to say this is the future, get on board now. Which is probably going to feel more like, if you will, a Gen Y view of the world. And there are going to be companies that are going to say, consciously or unconsciously, it's a journey. We're going to gradually move there. And as more and more of our Gen Ys are filling managerial positions, are filling the C-suite, then it's just going to happen organically. Now, I'm not per se saying one way is better than the other. What I would say, though, is that those companies who are courageous enough to innovate their business model and their management model, historically, and there's a lot of research behind this, tend to be the leaders in their industry. If one, for example, looks at these revolutionary organizations like Facebook, they've always been very clear about their mission, which is to connect communities and people in as many different ways as possible and as large a scale as possible. And that focus on that mission, which was very different to the analyst community, one might think, well, surely that's not a business model. That's not going to be successful. But that unrelenting focus on that purpose has actually, contrary to what we might think, has created huge amounts of unreasonable financial return. As a matter of fact, about 100% ROI year on year to the investor for the first few years of their existence after they went public. So you can't say, that what we're calling the Gen Y paradigm of the workforce is somehow uncommercial.
I'm privileged to hear amazing speakers the whole time, and a lot of them talk about Gen Y, and a lot of them use technology, kind of the world of Facebook, Uber or whatever it was, in order to bring about, kind of to be talking about the changing workplace. It'd be really interesting to have your viewpoint about other companies that are demonstrating this, maybe who aren't coming from a tech angle.
You're right, it would be wrong to assume that the only possible spheres of revolution would be in the tech industry. Let's take a really high-tech example, beer. So to take you back to, say, 1993, 94, August Bush IV, the patriarch of the Anheuser-Busch family in the US. So this is a mass market beer company. They create Budweiser. And August Bush IV at that time said these, you've seen these craft breweries, coming up, filled with the spirit and the energy of mission. You can use fantastic ingredients done in really sort of artisanal ways. He said, these are never going to earn more than 1% to 2% of the market. Well, now, if you then follow market share in the domestic American beer industry from about 1993 until about 2013, Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, lost about half their market share. They went from about 30% to 15%. Now, where do you think that 15% went to? Craft breweries. So pensions certainly are a huge issue for companies, and that can't be the only retention tool, without a doubt.
But obviously pensions currently are going through kind of very negative connotations, and especially for kind of people who are just starting out in their lives, where they're very cash poor, when they're working lives, they're very cash poor. And actually the concept about a payout of a pension in 40, 50 years' time is a long way off. So actually, as an incentive for Gen Y, what I constantly hear is it's not much of an incentive. Even if you were to offer them the world, they need to pay for their rent, especially when you live in London, right here, right now.
There are some things that companies can do today which are inexpensive but very powerful tools to really start to improve engagement and retention. First is an emphasis on purpose, really rethinking why do we exist, what is the social contract between employer and employee, what are the principles and benefits of working here? And I don't mean benefits like bonuses or etc., but the real quality of work. So, and related to that then, second are development opportunities. And here again, I think a lot of HR people misunderstand me when I say development opportunities. They think that means promotion. Because I often get the pushback, well, I can't promote someone every 2 years. We don't have enough levels in the organization. Well, I don't mean that. I mean quite simple, relatively inexpensive things like giving people more senior projects faster, mobility, moving people around different offices in different countries. I think another is really thinking about work-life balance. And here again, people misunderstand. They go, oh yeah, that means Generation Y, lazy as they are. No. We're not talking fewer hours. We mean let's just be realistic about the idea that with technology, you can work anywhere, anytime.
And do you think we're at a stage that it's literally the employer just has to have confidence and has be able to make the jump, or are we still not set up for it to happen?
So what I would mainly advise organizations and individuals when I'm talking about the future workforce is don't be afraid to focus on your purpose and your mission, to either invent it or reinvent it so that your company is fit for the future.